I'm a big proponent of clover for a handful of reasons. That will provide a little bit better seed to soil contact. You can definitely feel the sunlight, obviously with it being south facing, so I'll be interested to see what it looks like come this spring and later on this summer. What's up guys? It's mid-March and we're back on the 70. I know last video we had talked about trying to do maple syrup. The temperatures just aren't really cooperating yet for us, so maybe next video or the one following we'll try and knock that out. But today we came up with a couple projects in mind. I want to get some frost seeding done. So I'm going to frost seed a section on the big bottom plot, and then we'll head up to that southwest plot and frost seed that. And then I did bring the saw with me again, so we're going to try and knock out some more cutting on that south facing slope that we did mid-January. So sun's shining, a little chilly, but at least it's sunny, and we're going to see how much we can get done. So we'll get after it. So we just got to this strip where I planted cereals in front of the blind in the big bottom plot here. And this is where I'm gonna get going on the frost seeding. So as you can tell behind me, those cereals are already greening up a little bit just because the weather's been, last week at least, it was a lot warmer, and it's been encouraging to see we have that camera still running on this tree, and there's been a lot of deer already in here. So that's been nice to see. Anywho, frost seeding here. So I'm gonna frost seed both this section, and then there's a section where I did not drill in cereals, and that will provide a little bit better seed to soil contact. So it'll be interesting to compare those two back and forth. I did mix in clover to that cereal grain mixture last fall, and there are remnants of clover already starting to come back. So that'll be good to see. Did want to quick touch on this mixture here. A majority of it is red clover. In my experience, especially in sandier soils, that's a lot easier to establish. I did mix in ladino because that is preferred to red, so it'll be nice just to have that as part of it too. And then there's a little bit of chicory in here as well. So I'm gonna get going after it. I'm hopeful that we'll have a decent clover stand here come this summer, and we will see how it goes. Well, I just got done with that portion in front of the blind by the big bottom plot. I'm gonna take the rest here and head to that southwest food plot. I don't have huge hopes for this food plot with frost seeding, but I think with the conditions that we have coming up, we're supposed to get a pretty big storm both tomorrow night and this weekend. They're calling for just a mixture of winter precipitation and rain. So this one here, there's a fair amount of stuff, thatch, leaves over top of the soil, but I think with those conditions coming, if frost seeding is going to work, I think our odds are decent with what we have coming up. So we're going to give it a shot here. And secondly, I wanted to touch on clover. I'm a big proponent of clover for a handful of reasons. One of the major ones is it's just so drought tolerant. So even throughout the summer, if you can get it established in the spring or even the fall before, it can last pretty well without much rain and still can provide a lot of browse. And speaking of browse, it is so browse tolerant. And what I mean by that is it can withstand just so much browse from deer, and there's just a lot of food that it provides. And then thirdly, it is pretty easy to maintain and establish. Even if you get it maintained and then mow it a couple times in the spring and then before season in the fall, you can have yourself a pretty good food plot just with clover. So like I said, we're on this second plot here. I'm gonna get going on the frost seeding, and we'll see how it goes. We just wrapped up this second food plot here that we frost seeded, and wanted to quick go back on, so obviously with these storms coming up, I think that'll just help get this seed into the ground as much as possible. And especially with this food plot here, like I mentioned, with a lot of thatch over top, I think that's what this food plot is going to need. So we'll see what this one turns out like. I did go a little heavier on the seed too, just because of that stuff on top, and I'm trying to get obviously as much seed into the ground as possible. So we'll see what this one turns out like. I think in a perfect world, last year I would have just nuked it more with some herbicide, and then even mowed it down more. But I don't know, we'll see what it turns out like. That's it on the frost seeding. I think I'm gonna go get the saw out for a little while. We're gonna head over to that south facing slope and try and knock some of that out. I just got the chainsaw filled up with gas, and we're gonna head over to that south facing slope. This is the same slope I was at about a month and a half ago, and conditions that day were not great for hinging and cutting, so we ended up just knocking a bunch down. So should be a little better today. I have not been over there since, but I think I just want to make that area a little bit bigger and see what else we can get down. So we'll head over there right now. So I quickly wanted to start by cutting all these stumps that I ended up just having the tree fall off of a lot lower. A lot of the feedback I got from a lot of the guys were, if I cut these lower, it'll obviously encourage the sprouts lower on the tree, which makes them more accessible for the deer. So there's probably, I don't know, a dozen or so that, like I said, when we were up here last time, those trees ended up just falling off. So I'm gonna cut those down lower, and then we'll start cutting. I mean, it is kind of a mess in here, and that's going to be a project for another day, but I am definitely going to have to come back in here and just open this up a little bit. But you can definitely feel the sunlight, obviously, with it being south facing, so I'll be interested to see what it looks like come this spring and later on this summer. I'm gonna try and just chip away and work my way both up the hill a little further and then either west or east, and just try and get some more of these trees down. So a lot more needs to go, and like I mentioned before, I'm gonna have to definitely come in here and clear that out a little bit. But as long as we can get some of these down, it's all south facing, and hopefully that just encourages the regrowth even more. So I just hopped into the middle of this cut, and it is good to see a lot of these buds are all nipped off, and kind of what we expected just from obviously the drone video that we took back in January with all that snow, and then even by the food plot over the last couple weeks, they've still been hitting all those trees we've dropped. So at the end of the day, where we were at compared to now, we have just provided so much more woody browse, and at least with the stuff that we took down. And I just hope that all that new growth will just encourage more from here on out. And yeah, it'll be interesting to see what that turns out like. But yeah, just wanted to point that out, that a lot of these buds are all just nipped off. So good to see. So I just worked my way to the bottom of this slope, the south end of this cut, and there's a handful more trees that we're gonna knock out. But I kind of went around this cut and knocked down a few more. And as we kind of figured, this is gonna be a multi-year process, especially on this cut here, just because there's so much detailing that needs to be done, and I gotta get in there and just open it up some more to just encourage the bedding and try and make it more appealing, because right now it's just so hard to get to. But that's kind of what we figured. So I'm gonna knock out a couple more trees at the bottom of this slope, and then we're gonna call it a day. So that's a wrap on today. Just finished up taking care of these trees on the bottom of this slope here, and I kind of had an idea I want to run by you guys. So This slope here is a lot more open than obviously in the timber itself. And I'd love to try and do some switchgrass on this slope. So I'm wondering if I don't know if there's enough grass and thatch on top to burn it, but I'm wondering if I even try frost seeding, or even if I bring a blower in here and try and blow some of these leaves and even just frost seed into it. I think that'd make a pretty cool spot for some switchgrass just to add to this bedding here too. But just a thought. Let me know what you guys think. And yeah, overall today, I'd call it a success. We got that frost seeding done on both the food plots, and that went well. And like I mentioned at the last food plot we did, the weather coming up looks good for conditions to make sure we get some good seed to soil contact. So excited to see what that looks like. Not sure when we're going to be up here next, but would like to do some maple syrup over the next month. As always, appreciate you guys watching, and we will definitely see you on the next one.